Okay, okay, everyone. Welcome to Demystifying African Spirituality Summit. I am your host, Joy Mogami, and I am here with Samantha on day one. Welcome. Please, when you
Hi
arrive, do
everyone.
tell us that you are here using the chat in your computer or in your laptop, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you here on day one of this Demystifying African Spirituality Summit. It's our second annual summit, but the first of its kind where we are dedicating the next 9 days to African spirituality with Africa's foremost indigenous, traditional, and shamanic practitioners. And we're just going to go down the rabbit hole of exploring, of decolonizing, of returning and reclaiming our spirituality. So thank you so much for joining us. Samantha, welcome to this amazing
Thank you.
topic. I am so
Thank you
happy.
so much for having me.
Yeah. I am happy to have you here. Samantha is a change catalyst. She's a healer, she's a teacher, she's a channel, and she's the founder of Cosmic Lion Healing. And she's going to take us through the topic of demystifying fear around ancestors whenever we talk about ancestors. So stay with us and yeah, welcome, Samantha. Welcome.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much. Firstly, I just want to say that I'm so honored to be part of this wonderful, wonderful event. And just to say thank you to you and yours for this wonderful divine orchestration. In your introduction, you mentioned the word foremost healers and shamans, and I'm so honored to be listed as one of them, as I feel like I'm still a baby in this journey as a healer. So I'm so honored that my voice has been welcomed into the space, and that I have the platform to share what's on my heart.
uh,
Thank you.
you're most welcome. Thank you for saying yes to this call of our ancestors, to this call of my personal ancestors and all the ancestors who came here to make sure that this work is happening, this summit is going on, and so forth. And this is why I actually want us to begin with a certain sacred space for today and for the next 9 days so that we have the guidance of spirit, our upstairs support team, our non-ordinary support team. So I want everyone, wherever we are, in Africa, in the world, to just take time to just connect and hold space for me, for Samantha, and all the other speakers who are going to come here to share from that sacred heart what is true for them about African spirituality. And we welcome in the guides and other higher light beings who are supporting this work. So it's just connecting a bit with our sacred heart and calling in our support team, coming in from higher light, calling in our ancestors, calling in the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the ancient ones, the spirit beings who walk in the light, who are guiding us, calling in ancestors of our blood, of our bones, ancestors of this beautiful land of Africa, this beautiful planet called Mother Earth, Mother Gaia. Also calling in star ancestors who are coming in from the cosmic and the galactic to support us on these beautiful journeys. All the beings, we might have different names for them, archangels, ascended masters, and the different ancestor names that we have for each one. Also calling in the spirit deities, powerful spirit deities that are awake and alive and supporting this powerful transmission that we're going to have today and in the next 9 days. We thank you, higher beings, higher light, for your guidance, for your support, for your anchor, for the transmission that are going to come through us as vessels, and for each individual who is here, who's joining in this transmission. We bless you. We invite in each one of us our sacred heart. We invite in our I am presence, our higher self, our God self to be here. And of course, we invite in the Divine Mother and the Divine Father that work with every being here. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
And so it is. Togos.
Together. Welcome. I am feeling so much better now after connecting.
Yes, yes. We are rolling squad deep.
Yes. So just wanted to just do a bit of what do you call it, housekeeping. So I'm sure you have the chat box for chatting with us throughout, and you also see the Q&A for everyone who has a question to ask Samantha throughout this transmission. Please feel free to ask your question in the Q&A, and we will get to that towards the end of this transmission. But now we're going to begin, beginning first with, allowing you, Samantha, to tell us more about you, your journey, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm going to try and keep it as succinct as possible. As you know, when we spoke previously, it's a long story. But yes, ultimately, I identify with the words you introduced me with. I am a dream worker. I am a teacher, but I'm also a student. I am an apprentice. I'm a herbalist. I am an energy healer and a channel of spirit. And under my company, Cosmic Line Healing, I do a lot of work within workshops, as well as in one-on-one sessions. And as it stands right now, primarily I've been guided to focus on the areas of trauma and just understanding it better, really getting to the roots of it, and understanding ourselves better in order to map a way forward towards our freedom. And then I've also been doing a lot of work around the raising of the divine feminine, around the healing of our wounds. And this is very personal to my journey and process as someone that has experienced childhood sexual trauma. And then also, as stated in my bio that you shared, Joy, my healing philosophy very much centers around empowerment. And it's about getting us to align with our divine inner wisdom, and just, getting the tools and ways to strengthen the connection with our spiritual guidance, with our spiritual teams, with our higher selves, just so that we can be in the driving seat of our own journeys, so we can activate the healer within, so that we can align with our own power, a power that says that every single person, has the capacity to heal themselves.
I just get chills every time you talk, because I deeply resonate with, activating this wisdom that we are our own healers, and that we have everything within us. We have the guides that work with each one of us to facilitate in our own healing. So I'm really excited to talk to you more deeply about this, especially when you started talking about doing a lot of trauma work. What came up for me is what we're talking about today, fear, and how a lot of trauma creates fear in our lives and leaves us feeling disempowered and feeling like our lives are stuck and they're not evolving, right? But I want us to go straight to fear, the work that you do, just working with fear and how that has been coming up for you, and then we will take it deeper to the fear that we actually have around ancestors, around African spirituality.
Sure. Hey, fear is a very, very big thing that many of us grapple with. And it's something that if it goes unexpressed, if we do not engage with it and go and listen to it and try and hear what it has to teach us, what it is trying to illuminate within us, what it is trying to bring into awareness into our lives, it can lead us to have a very, you use the word empowerment, it can lead us to have a very disempowered experience of life, where you feel like life is just happening to you, where you feel that you're just forced to go along certain paths, whether it's the paths of your family, your religion, or whatever culture that we subscribe to. And yeah, I found that in my personal journey, as someone that has struggled with anxiety and has struggled with depression, yeah, of being Sam has been very central to that. And what has been integral in terms of my own healing process has been, you know, working through those blockages in order to allow Sam to express herself, because ultimately things like depression, things like our like anxiety are stuck energy. It is suppressed energy because there's the Sam in me that is wanting to come out and be and express. And when there's that wall, you know, when there's that thing blocking you from being your full self, you become depressed, you know, because it's almost like living an unlived life. So yeah, in terms of my own work of working through my trauma, my own personal trauma, along with the trauma within my lineage, which, you know, has also shaped me, along with all the good stuff, yeah, has been fundamental to address in order for me to start to embody more and more freedom and thus more and more of Sam.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the reasons that inspired me to do this summit is because I recognize that the fears that we have around being ourselves as women, as African women, as human beings, is also facilitated or encouraged by the past and the histories that have been oppressive, that have erased, you know, our ways, our cultures, our heritage, and so on and so forth. And I think that as someone who has lived outside life where I was not practicing African spirituality and then practicing African spirituality, I have found that there are two different needs. And the me that I am, since I started this path of African spirituality, practicing it, living it, being devoted to it, I am more freer than I was before. And I want us to talk about how actually the fears that we have around, it's not really just about ancestors, but I think it's the fear of our culture and our heritage and our spirituality as African people or people of African descent, right?
Definitely, that resonates. I particularly resonate with you saying that, you know, you hadn't always practiced African spirituality and then you did. That has been my background too. My background has been Christian. I was brought up in a Christian household. My father is a pastor. So I approached African spirituality, I don't know, from the back door or the side door. And I must say that I feel quite blessed in terms of how I have come upon African spirituality. I came to it with a sort of ignorance, a naivety, and an innocence of someone who just simply doesn't know, purely because I was just not exposed to it. And I feel that approaching African spirituality through my own personal experience and not within the lens of culture, of tradition, of dogma, of being told, Gutsi, this is African spirituality, these are ancestors, this is how it works. I feel blessed that because that I wasn't immersed in the culture and the dialogue, I got to understand it from my own perspective. I got to understand it from an experiential level. and not from what I was told or what the narrative was. And the more I got immersed within African spirituality, in my case particularly, through cultivating a relationship with my ancestors, I was then exposed to more people and just the culture. And what I recognized is that there was a lot I resonated with, but there was a lot that I did not resonate with.
Mm.
And for me, there was a lot of fear that I must say I likened to Christianity in a sense. That's the irony. And at the point when I had entered into African spirituality, I no longer identified as Christian and went into more esoteric New Age practices. So I'm here in a bubble of love and light. And then here Amazozi and they are angry all the time. And I guess like any person who has a calling and has had interesting experience, I did encounter this fear, where people would stop me and say, hey, your people are waiting for you. And if you don't, honor this call, you're going to die, uzofa. Your life is going to fall apart. So I did, engage the fear in that way, but it directly contrasted and countered the experience that I would have. And the experience of my ancestors was just loving. They provided an insulation around me. They were so empathetic. They were so compassionate. But beyond this nurturing energy, they were so smart, just so advanced. And sometimes I like to use the word a technology to refer to our ancestors, because sometimes, I don't know, I feel that there's a tendency to place African spirituality low on the intellectual scale. And it is so advanced. When you even try and sit and think of its healing mechanisms, it will just blow your mind. So yeah, anyways, here I am with these two contrasting narratives, just this love, this care, this warmth that I hadn't experienced throughout my life, that I did not even have the capacity to give to myself. And here are my ancestors. But simultaneously, there's this story of ancestors as people who punish, as people who are angry, as people who are demanding, as people who are controlling. And yeah, I struggled to reconcile the two.
Wow. I always get chills when you talk about ancestors as technology, as this powerful, energetic, very advanced, very ancient also, force that can be around you, that can be your support, your anchor. I get chills because I think that is how I've experienced it myself, and the way you describe it is like, yes, 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 yes. That has been the experience for me as well. And just as we're talking about this two contrast of, there's this part where there's a lot of fear, especially before you come into African, like you start practicing it. And I imagine for people who are not practicing, that's where I want us to actually back a little bit and try to perceive it from before, and just try to see why in particular there is this dogma around. I mean, you did mention that there's a lot of influence from Christianity that has shifted probably how we relate with ancestors and how we perceive them, and how that creates the fear in the first place. Because the thing is, African spirituality is an ancient spirituality. It has been here for generations after generations. Our people have been utilizing this technology throughout, and this is how we have survived as a continent and so on, right? But like, it seems like there was a shift, a big shift for us as Africa, where now there was this big fear and there was this complete shutting down of connecting with ancestors. So let's go back to that big fear, which is global to all African, everyone who's a human of African descent. But I love the personal one.
Yeah. No, I feel that we've definitely touched on it. It is the colonial agenda, the imperialist agenda that literally consciously sought to mentally enslave us, to change how we see ourselves, to change how we see the God within us, to change how we see our power. So I do believe that it is uh, has been a very deliberate agenda.
Mm.
Circulated about some general, I don't know if he was a Belgian general, and he literally states that um, our aim is to take away their gods, you know,
Mm.
because their strength lies in that.
Mm.
And once we take that away, we will be able to then control them. So I do believe that definitely it has come from the colonization and the imperialist agenda, which then it makes it understandable. You know, it definitely has a basis.
Mm.
And also, then furthermore, the laws that came about as a result, laws that prevented certain practices from being practiced openly. So it's been protective, you know. So it's not all like a bad and negative. A lot of the fear is functional. Sometimes fear isn't completely a bad thing, you know. It may not necessarily be a good idea to pet a snake. You don't know. And so in terms of being able to shield and protect their children during these times when it was not legal to be who we are, I guess that the fear had its purpose in a sense. But something else that I'd like to offer to this conversation of why, where does this fear come from? Where does any fear come from?
Mm.
And it just takes me to, in the book of Genesis, it is said that God created us in his image, right?
Mm.
But what I'm finding is that in terms of our language and how we define and depict God, um, we'll find that God is made in man's image.
Mm.
What we're doing is that we are projecting our own woundedness onto God. We are projecting our own woundedness onto our ancestors. We are projecting our own woundedness onto our spiritual teams. So an ancestor that is punishing, that has a wrath, that is anger, and this even refers to religion. I also feel that there's that challenge that um, even within organized religion, its practitioners are waking up to, hey, wait a minute. Why is it that the God we are preaching about is not the God that lies within, the God that we feel, you know? So I feel that, yeah, we are projecting who we are onto our ancestors. And hey, man, with life and all that we have experienced historically, we are a wounded people. So obviously our creations will be distorted.
Mm. Yeah. What's coming up for me is that this is a trauma response. When you really think about it, this fear is because of trauma. And as you started talking about the book of Genesis, it brought me to what I've been calling the individuation wound. And other people call it the God wound, other people call it the cosmic wound. There are different names for it. The individuation wound, I think it goes to the primordial human beings all the way to the beginning of like the first humans to be created. We have different names for that. The Eva, Eve and Adam template, right? I think that that moment of separation from source energy, from God energy, and being now completely in a different experience altogether created such a huge trauma to the psyche of a human being, the spirit that also comes to embody the human body, and Because when you really look at how we perceive our ancestors, how we perceive God, it's always separate. It's like these are beings outside us. These are like higher, superior beings, right? And that's because of the trauma response. It feels like we were children and we were left by our parents, and we will always believe that the parent has superior, like that's superior to us. They have more power than us, and they have power to exercise that power in our lives, and we are completely without responsibility, without power to do something about it. You know,
Ooh.
the trauma response. This is a transmission from my ancestors. It's not even me. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a trauma, as you said, like we're traumatized, like just from a very origin primordial level, and then we can add more wounds that we have as people, as African people, and all the experiences that we've had that have made us feel separate from each other. And that makes us feel like it's us against some forces, some energies, you know, that are bigger than us, you know?
Definitely. Something that really came up for me is, as you mentioned the word responsibility, I thought about how it is so challenging. You know, especially those of us who have committed to really walk this journey of awakening, of remembering ourselves, the amount of responsibility one needs to take on for their own experience, for everything that happens to them, and for everything that they feel is hard. It is extremely hard. And so sometimes the fear and the dynamic, the separation that we create is functional, because it's easier for us to go, here's my power, you tell me who I am, you tell me what must I do next, where do I go, who am I? And yeah, it is challenging to know that the compass is within you. And I must say that in terms of my personal journey with my ancestor, that has been a sobering, ancestors, it has been a sobering experience for me, because I feel that we are always looking for saviors. That's our nature as humanity. We're always looking for the God outside of us. We're always looking for someone to fix us. We're always looking, for someone to tell us who we are. And as you said, the dynamic starts with our parents. You know, they tell us who we are, they inform who we are. Then it shifts, and then it's your friends. And then, or perhaps it's whatever subcultures you're part of, whatever religion. And then you see and you go, oh, something's not right here. And then you shift and you move on. And potentially you find yourself with an African spirituality. And I don't know if anyone out there is like me. I was like, hooray, here are the people to save me. They are going to do everything and tell me who I am. Finally, I'm found. And they say, baby girl, we are going to help you find you. The power is in you. Our function is not for you to worship us. And I feel that that is a conversation that people are not conscious of. Instead, we are carrying on that dynamic of separation prevalent within religion. That dynamic of there being something greater and more important than you. And I don't know if we're able to shift our thinking and see our agency and responsibility within African spirituality, we will see that there's nothing to fear other than ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that we can shift that. And I hope that this work, as we're doing it, is helping people do that, because a lot of it is mental distortions, you know, mental obstructions that we have inherited from generation to generations, where we're being told about what ancestors are and how to relate with them and how to work with them. And this is definitely not outside the sacredness of that relationship, and how, yes, in many times it does feel like you are a child come into this warm, loving beings, who have more wisdom and understanding of the bigger picture. And so in that way, like when we do devotion to our ancestors, I think that there's this idea that because, maybe you are bowing, maybe you are doing that devotional work, then they are superior to you, rather than just see it as part of the sacred of relating with this higher light beings and that wisdom, right? And I think that there are many elements that are not interpreted right, just because of the systems and the educations that we have, that make people believe that, so some of the stories, like you're saying, ancestors, they have this wrath, they're angry. If you don't do what they tell you, they are going to punish you, they will take your life, and so forth. And what other fear is there? Inviting everyone to share the fears that they actually have around ancestors, so that we can use that as a boundary. But I definitely, for me, remember that the fears that I had before practicing was, I didn't have a lot of the raw fear as much, but it was there because of also I come from a Christian background. But I think the other fear, which I wanted to explore, was the idea of when you relate with our ancestors, there's like a sense of losing your control, losing the control of your body, and so forth. Like for me, that was one of my main fear, like they're going to take over my life, and my life will not be in control, and they will get to tell me what my life has to look like. And it's so in many ways it looked like I would become a slave rather than someone who's practicing from their own agency. Yeah. So may we speak to these two fears that I mentioned. And if you have any other fears you have, please share with us in the chat or in the Q&A, so that we can like just look at those fears and where they come from and how we can shift them, basically.
Okay. Sure. So much resonance in terms of your fears. So I've mentioned previously how people would stop me and say, hey, if you don't embark on this journey, everything is going to go wrong, you'll die. And they can list all these people who fell sick and all that stuff, right? And I just want to spin that conversation on its head and show you how we channel certain information determines its energy. So ultimately, what that person is actually saying, if they were not channeling from a place of woundedness and trauma, that person is saying that when you delay your calling, you delay your healing. That's ultimately what happens. And that is not something that your ancestors do to you. Everything that we have come to do in this incarnation and this experience on earth, our soul has dictated. So when things start falling out of alignment, it is you trying to get your own attention. And I think it's very important that people understand that your ancestors do not make you sick. Your ancestors do not do things to you. Everything that happens to us is a soul lesson that has a purpose of getting us into alignment with where it is that we're supposed to be. So I resonate with people who have had traumatic experiences and would link it to ancestral wrath. Like I understand where they're coming from. Personally, I could not walk for 3 months, no matter what I did. I'm here, I'm studying herbal medicine. I have a whole module that should be able to fix my leg and nothing's working. Fine. I give in, I go through conventional medicine, and my leg gets worse. The doctor cannot understand my case. I find myself at a physio, and she is just, what is going on? Why can't you walk? And then I had to click and start listening to my dreams. And one may perceive that you were punished for not listening. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Me not walking slowed me down. It slowed me down. It had me still and gave me the capacity to sit and listen and say, Sam, who are you? Who are you, Sam? This life, everything that is happening, Is this what you want? So it is something that my soul created. It's an event, an experience of contrast that would help get me on the right track. So yeah, that's just addressing the fear around ancestors making you sick. But I also do feel that it is a problematic when we use that fear to rush people into a process, and then people end up going to the incorrect teachers, or people are just not at the right stage in their journeys. And working with ancestors and guides, you will know that everything happens in divine and right time. You will always be adequately prepared for where it is you need to be, whether it is mentally or whether it is emotionally. You'll be guided to a joy, and joy will give you an understanding of your calling and African spirituality that makes you go, I choose to do this. This makes sense to me. Yes, I am not going to approach this thing fearfully. I am going to approach it with joy and empowerment. And so, I do think that the dialogue needs to change around how people who have the calling are communicated to. Yes.
I love this so much, Sam. I love it so, so much. It's so shifting for sure, because that's a new perspective, I think, for many people to realize that you at a soul level, you have a contract to come and be a healer, a light worker. You chose that, right? And all the events that are going to happen will be reminders, just like, oh, by the way, you might just remember, and the body is also such a powerful tool in how it also helps us, become aware of what's within, what we are holding, what we have not released, and also what can liberate us. And I love what you said, because I've always perceived the hospitals as that, as people are exhausted, and so they end up getting the flu so that they get to rest, because we're just like so stubborn mentally, perhaps. And so we create these illnesses to allow ourselves to come back to our center, to our core, and to then begin the journey of getting in alignment and listening to our own soul, the soul core that's coming forward. So it's so, so beautiful for people to see it this way, that like our ancestors, they're waiting in understanding, in loving kindness, with empathy, with sympathy. And it's like, oh, we understand, we've been there. And also a bit of like, just like any parent does with that child, when you see your child, going up a tree and they're like jumping from one tree to the other. I mean, just like, why are you doing that, my dear child? There's no need, So that is, you can interpret that as a wrath, or you could see that's a loving parent who does not want you to love yourself, So I love this conversation altogether around that the ancestors are waiting like parents. And they do give us, inspiration and ideas, and they help you to remember who you are. And I think it's really important what you said about the importance of people choosing to remember and choosing to take that path when they are ready. It's so, so, so vital, because it's their own soul journey after all. It's their own experience after all, So beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Anything done out of desperation is not sustainable.
Yes.
If you're doing this because you're afraid of dying, that is not something that can live on. That's not a foundation to create from.
Yes. So let's expand this. The second fear that I was talking about. I definitely was the image that I had of African spirituality practitioners was from the movies, and it always looked like, someone in a dark heart, and there are strange things in that dark heart. You can't see their face, and there's just a lot of movement happening to them, and it looks very scary. It looks very scary. Like, what are they doing? What is actually happening to them? And that image was always imprinted in me because that's the only archetype of an African practitioner that I had. I didn't have any other besides that, and it was from the movies. And even later on in my schooling, when I was studying psychology, we did go to a practitioner and we went to his place. And I think that was the person who first shifted me to realize that, oh, it's not as scary as it was perceived on TV. But like that was 23 years of having the same fear, and then it being debunked later on in my life after I had delayed answering the call because I was so afraid of what will happen to me. What kind of tools will I use as a healer? And why does my body move like that? What's happening? Where is my soul? Where is my spirit when all of this is happening? I think a lot of people can relate to this on how that image of a sangoma or a traditional healer is like scary. What is happening here, Sam?
I can definitely relate with that story
Yeah.
on a personal level. So here I am, and I find out, okay, this is my calling, and this is the path I'm to walk. And I literally was just paralyzed with fear because I could not see myself in that image. There I am in that dark whatever, and I'm just like, but that's not Sam. So for months I literally just did not move until I was guided to a healer, to a sangoma. And that really revolutionized my relationship with my ancestors and the idea that it can manifest in multiple ways that resonate with you. And what was said in that reading was there are many paths to the light. So my people said, stop fixating on this solid path, this singular path and what it looks like. There are many paths to the light. Find your path. Listen, go within, create it. Create Sam, but Sukona, and we are ready to work. And I think that's something that is very important. And I know that it's at the foundation of why this orchestration has happened between me and you, Joy, is that spreading the conversation of the alternative paths, the alternative routes, the different manifestations of what it looks like to be an ancestral child, what it looks like to be a healer. So yeah, I definitely do resonate with your fear and how you struggle to see yourself in that picture. But now I just want to delve deeply into this conversation around the darkness and the scary figure in Lumba. I was actually having a conversation with spirits. And again, I feel that that fear comes from a wounded place. But it's a fear that has informed the conversation and the narrative of it being demonic. And there's something in our nature to reject the darkness. But the reality is that the darkness is part of us. And that's the thing. I'm not going to say African spirituality is rainbows only and sunshine and light. There's very much the darkness aspect to it, but in a way that we are, that generally as an average person you struggle to connect with and conceive of. But once you go in this journey, you realize the significance and the importance of both the light and the dark. And I find that just that resistance to the darkness speaks to larger narratives, in terms of our own personal trauma healing work. It's easy for me to deal with the side of Sam that is loving, that is caring, that is passionate, but it is hard for me to sit and embrace the Sam in me that is sexual, or the Sam in me that has a rage that could burn down a city. That kind of dark power that I'm having to channel. and use for transformation and change, you know? So yeah, I think that the fear literally comes from the fear of darkness. We have nightmares of monsters, you know, even when the calling comes, right? It's snakes chasing you, it's scary things. But ultimately, what you're showing is a projection of all the things in you that you are rejecting.
Yes, I've been on this path of naming and renaming things. I think it's been like a passion project for me. And like reconfiguring things, like re-looking at things in a different way in time. Because as you were speaking, the image I'm shown by my guides right now, talking about the fear of the dark, what comes to me right now is when I am in stillness with my eyes closed, what that feels like or looks like to me is the image of the darkness. It is literally black when you close your eyes, and it's like you're in this endless abyss of nothingness. Yet it's inside that you find the light, like flickering somewhere, the light of your heart, right? The light of your soul, your spirit. This is how we can connect with the spirit essentially, by moving through the stillness that looks like the dark. You know, it's so beautiful. And so I've started to rename things for me, where darkness could actually mean stillness, to hear, to understand, you know, to bring up what I'm not seeing properly so I can see with my inner vision. So there's a need to rename or recalibrate the words that we use and how we use them. You know, I was listening to someone and they were talking about how we're always constantly actually putting spells on ourselves through the words, through the spellings that we use, you know, and how that spell can create fear for you, or it can literally give you power. It can allow you, like you're saying, to use that state to transmute, to transform, to heal. Yeah, and a lot of, and I do tell all the warriors that I work with that we do have to move through the shadow to find the light. And it is that two that they're always working together, shadow and light consciousness. And the light is always there and it's always flickering, but it is our fear of the shadow, of the dark, that also hinders us from seeing the light within ourselves and seeing the light of ancestors, of spirit, literally being a vivid experience in our lives, right? So getting ready to actually go to the questions now. So I'm going to look at the questions. Sam, is there anything you want to say as I look at these questions?
There's something that you touched on that I'd wanted to go back to, and the idea of, you know, devotion and giving thanks and appreciation to our ancestors, and how that can be misconstrued as they being a hegemonic, you know, a power dynamic between us and our ancestors. And I just want to talk about this in light of the illusion of separation that we tend to feel with our ancestors. I personally believe, and I know many people share this perspective, is that literally I am my ancestors and my ancestors are me. They form Sam. Sam didn't just like poof, appear out of nowhere with the full personality, likes chocolate, doesn't like vanilla. No, all of that comes from somewhere, you know. So the amalgamation of my ancestry along with my past lives, like those dynamics create the Sam in front of us. And if we're going to take it, you know, to a scientific level, even on a cellular level, in our DNA, our ancestors are us, our cells are made up of them. So I find that everything that I do in ritual for them, I do for myself. So I shared with you, Joy, this dream I had where my grandfather came to me, my father's father. And well, I had a dream with him. And in the dream, he was in a hospital and they were trying to give him medication and he would refuse it. And he was angry and he was agitated. So sometimes some practitioners may read that dream as, his spirit is not at rest, or something along those lines. But when I understand that he is me, I understood that he was bringing a message about me and my psyche and my personal experience and what I was going through at that time. And what my ancestors were saying to me is that, Sam, we are trying to give you the medicine, but you are resisting it. You're going, mm-mm. And as a result, you're angry and you're irritable. So yeah, in that case, my grandfather was me in that dream. But on a literal level, he is me. So if you have certain triggers, if you struggle in certain aspects of your life, you can link it within your lineage. If you look at certain families, they're families that struggle with alcoholism. If you look at other families, the issue is poverty, like wonke umuntu is just battling financially. There are some families where they just struggle with healthy relationships, So yeah, if we understand the dis-ease and whatever that they are going through as what we are going through, and we're able to sit and look and say, yo, where am I angry in my life? Where am I resisting? It opens you up in terms of performing these rituals and these things of divination, because you understand how integral they are to your healing. So you're not just here randomly doing things for these ancestors and always want umsebenzi, they're always angry, all that stuff. If there's work to be done, it means look within. There's something that needs to shift within you. You're there, you're praying, uyapata, you're asking, please open the way for me here. Please help me with my career. Please help me with soulmate connections. And then they come to you and they show you what is not right within the lineage, and that's within you.
Oh, I love this so much. I love this so much. I think it's how we often see everything literally in our lives. Like, we're not seeing, like, the language of ancestors is actually symbolic, as you were saying, you were seeing your great grandfather, but it was really you. And this is the same for the language of dreams. It's very symbolic. It's so the symbols of your personal soul. And although we might have the symbols that are, universal across all of us, there are some questions here that just came up. Someone is asking since we're talking about dreams, about snakes and why they come up for people who are called, and why they basically torment her, and what. So, I mean, this is why I think people will be afraid, because it's like you're seeing the snakes coming in and you're taking it literally, like there's a snake coming to harm me. And also, the archetype of a snake throughout history has not been a good one, right? So that's the disconnects that I've been finding, that we see everything. If you interpret what's happening in your journey as someone who's feeling called, or as someone who's interested in this path, the number one thing you need to do is actually do shift and realize that there are deeper meanings to everything that's coming up. It's never as straightforward or as literal as you are seeing it, because our ancestors will use the symbols to try to trigger you, to open you up, right? May we talk about the snake and why this is coming up for so many?
Can I have the name? Do we have a name for who posed the question, so I know who to address?
Yes. So Nonofan is asking, yes, why the issue? Nonofan. Yes.
Nonofan. Okay. Yes. I don't want to mispronounce your name, so I will not pronounce it. I will respect it because I cannot see it. All right. So yeah. Snakes. Hey, snakes are a very, very, very a common dream that we have on this journey. So what I have learned is that having the calling has two functions, right? It is for you to awaken to your healing gifts. But primarily, before we even think about that, having the calling is about healing yourself. And when we look at the snake symbolizes two things. It symbolizes the unconscious and it symbolizes healing. So when you are seeing the snake, it is your spiritual team, and it is a symbol that is used by ancestors along with shamanic spirits to say that wake up. There are things in you that you have not dealt with, that you have not processed within yourself, within your lineage, that are unconsciously ruling your life. So yeah, I dreamt of snakes a lot for many years. And the primary thing that was in my unconscious, when something's unconscious, it means that you're not aware of it, right? And the primary thing that needed healing, that was unconsciously driving my life, was sexual trauma. So I experienced sexual trauma around the ages of 2, 3. So imagine that age, right? You do not have memory, you do not have words, you do not have cognition. So I did not recall the event. But there's this thing, this thing, I'm battling with deep, dark depression that I cannot place. I know I know that life hasn't been perfect, but it just seemed out of proportion, the sadness I felt. And so here were these snakes, there were these snakes. And through working with my ancestors, they came and showed me that a huge part of what has been driving your life in your unconscious has been this sexual wound. So yeah, anyone that's on this path will know that there is some sort of trauma that we've all experienced in one way or another. Funny enough, sexual trauma is very common among various healers and abokoko. So yeah, you'll find that the snake is alerting you to the fact that you have things in your unconscious that need healing. And in order for you to deal with them requires you to start listening and honoring your calling and being open to the guidance of those that walk with you, that have a bird's eye view, who see what you can't see, to help you on this journey of healing. And what happens is that it goes together. As you heal yourself, your gifts are activated. It's a parallel journey.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing, Sam. I just also wanted to expand, because I think also the fear of snakes comes from religion and the original story of how the snake came and basically changed things for Eve and Adam and, well, the human race. And I wanted yeah. So the symbol of the snake actually goes beyond African spirituality. If you look at different religions, you can interpret it literally like that, or you could see the story of Eve and Adam as a symbol, and it's symbolizing that it, like you were saying, Sam, the snake basically revealed and opened up Eve and Adam to what was far beyond what they were able to perceive before. So that tree of that is in the garden is the tree of knowledge, and it is through encouraging Eve to eat the apple that her eyes get opened up, her inner vision, and she's able to see. When they say they were able to see their own nakedness, it is being able to see both your light and your shadow, right? And that is the role of the snake throughout time. It is to open you up so you can see your dark and your shadow. And also it is medicine. Like, you then can heal it once you know your own nakedness. So that's also something I wanted to add on in terms of like beyond our spirituality. Okay, so
And I know it's scary, but it symbolizes transformation. It means that you're about to go through a journey of becoming. And once you come out of the other side, you'll be all the more happier and fulfilled and in alignment with who you are for it. Because what happens, the snake sheds its skin to reveal new skin.
Yes, yeah, it can transform itself. It can give birth to itself. So powerful. So just a follow up on what you were just sharing about sexual trauma. Mirifa wanted to to talk more about that, because that has also been her experience, and she wants to know why is it that sexual trauma is common among those who are called.
Sure, it's something that I've always grappled with. I've asked Spirit, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So what comes first, the trauma or the calling? You know, do you have to go through the trauma to activate the calling, or does the calling mean that you will go through the trauma in order to make you a better healer? So to be honest with you, I must say that I do grapple with what comes first. But yeah, I find that a lot of us will go through really contrasting and painful, let's just say, let's call it what it is, painful and horrific experiences that really activate and break us open, almost break our hearts, and so the light shines through. And yeah, that's I think that may be a way to help us understand why it is that happens. And who are the most empathetic people? I believe that primarily the main thing any healer needs to be is empathetic. And who is more empathetic than anyone that has gone through pain, who has walked through the valley of the shadow of death? Those are the people that have the capacity to hold others with care and hold the world as they had to learn to hold themselves and heal themselves. I hope that sort of answers you.
It definitely does. And I think that when I think about, like, ever notice how when you're sick, you have like a fever, you have the most intense dreams and very astral experiences, interdimensional travels. And I think pain has that ability to just open us up to be able to transcend to other realms of dimensions where we can then learn about our ancestors and work with them and so forth. And I think so pain also has that tool basically to open you up so that you are able to do this work. But also wanting to add that sometimes in a family or even in a community, there are souls that choose to transmit what the collective is refusing to transmit. And so I think that those who are caught, sometimes we carry the pain of everyone in the family. And so trauma has to come up. The most painful atrocious pain comes up in our lives so that we can transmit it for the lineage and for the community. So it's definitely not an easy thing to like come to, but it seems to be also a possibility of why that happens for gifted people, that you are also transmuting and you are also activating the medicine. As you heal yourself, you will heal other people.
Definitely. I mean, I have my own mentor and healers that I see that have helped me through my journey. And the one likes to say, I know you don't want to hear this, but you chose this. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but it speaks to our power. We've chosen to say that it stops here. It stops here. Things have to change within our families and also within the collective. We need to, and to say that going forward, we are going to grow from a different place. We're going to grow from a place of joy. We're going to grow from a place of love. So there are those of us who are, as you said, Joy, have chosen to come in and transmute dark into light.
Yes. Okay, so another question. Busisiwe, she's talking about fear around Ukutwasa, the Twasa process. May we explore that on how to move ourselves to get to a point where we can open ourselves up to that process? Not right now, whenever we are ready. How can we shift the fear around the Twasa process and how it's been represented in our community and social media?
Yeah, I think it's important to be gentle with yourself and, you know, not to force yourself into a state. But what you can do is rather work with the underlying energy of the fear, you know. So if you're being called Ugio Twasa, it means that you have things in you to heal in order then to then activate the healer within you, right? So my suggestion to her, to Ubusi, is just to go about healing practices that resonate with her, that can start to shift the fear, and have her, you know, be more open and responsive to the idea of initiating. And also prayer and upasha. I don't know how connected you are with any of the people in your lineage, but for a start, if there is an ancestor, there's that grandmother that is late that you love and trust, I say start cultivating a relationship with her, as simple as lighting one white candle and praying, particularly just to this ancestor, saying her or his full name, and say, please help me understand, help me to see how this is for my highest good, help me to see how this process can actually serve me. And actually taking this back to our conversation around fear, this actually brings me something that I wanted to touch on, that I also battled with. I've battled with honoring this process. To this day, there's still resistance in me. But I feel that it's due to the fear of losing control. We want to control our lives. And sometimes there's the perception that Uktwasa is sacrificial. Like your ancestors are asking you to go and just do some random thing. And yes, we have touched on the fact that there is the idea of you are signing on for this mammoth task of transmutation for your lineage. But also, we need to understand that you embarking on this process is not about you losing control, it's about you gaining control. You think you're in control. But like as we go back to the question about snakes, you know, and the unconscious, most of us are, you know, walking around with our eyes closed. And this process of you initiating is to open your eyes to you, to yourself, to your gifts. So if you can, you know, try, you know, think of that and see that after this process, Busi, you will be more Busi than you were before. You know, working with your ancestors, they'll say, don't drink. And you think, oh my God, these people are controlling my life. But then when you surrender, you know, when you can, surrender is not easy. But when you surrender, then you go and learn that, wow, I was using alcohol to hide anxiety. I was using alcohol to hide fear of intimacy. I was using alcohol because I'm so afraid of being rejected and judged. So, yeah, when your ancestors are instructing you, it is to help you come into alignment with a pure truth, a real truth, a sense of freedom. So yeah, I just recommend those things. Just start working on healing practices that will help you deal with the underlying energy of the fear, whether it's meditation, prayer, movement, yoga, and then also connecting with an ancestor that you trust and asking for them to help guide you through this process, to help you understand, to give you clear signs also, clear signs that this is who you should go to, this is the time, and that sort of thing. And then also just also trying to shift the conversation in your head about what initiation actually is. Initiation is for you. It is to serve you. It is to heal you so you can be the best version of you.
Oh, Togoza, this is so good. So powerful. I love this. So I'm just going to go to the questions because, yeah, so powerful. So I'm going to pick another question that's actually a bit related to the fear of control before coming to the other ones here. This one comes from Facebook. Um, and the question is essentially, when we are doing the part, how do they say it in South Africa? Pasha, right? Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Meditation or movement or any work related to ancestors, there is movement of energy in the body, right?
Yes,
Which can be scary. So Sibongile
yes.
is asking about, like, how do you actually know that the energies that are moving through whenever you're connecting with your ancestors are actually good or bad? Because for her, it's been scary for her when she's doing this. She's connecting with ancestors because it feels like bad energy, or someone is like sitting on her, and it's like, because of the indoctrination that we've been talking about, it, yeah, you people are not willing to do that, to experience that, in that way. How can we shift the idea of bad energy and good energy, and how to work with ancestors in a way that is not scary, basically?
Okay. You've alluded to my response, Joy, when you use the word indoctrination.
Mm,
So sometimes our fears are really just based on the conversation of yeah, spirits being demonic. And also, it's just a very human reaction. I just want to say to you that it is very natural to be fearful of something that is new. You know, you
mm,
are used to the third dimensional world. You know, you're used to this wall. You can
mm,
touch it. That's all we know. That's how we are raised. But now, when we enter into this realm of spirituality where the veil parts, and the veil thins, it is scary. So I just want to validate that fear and say that it's expected and your people understand. And so you can ask them to please engage you in gentler ways until you're ready to ease you into the process. I remember when I had a clairvoyant experience with my ancestors and guides, not closed eye through third eye, eyes open. Boom, here these people walking towards me. I was petrified. And so then what they did is they're like, oops, we scared you. Okay, sorry. And then they just held back and then communicated with me in ways that I could be more comfortable with. And generally, when our psychic gifts develop and open, clairvoyance, being able to see is generally one of the last things to open because it's the scariest. And
mm,
there are many healers and psychics and mediums out there who opt to never see. Like they have an agreement with their guidance team that I don't want to see you. And that's okay too. So yeah, your fear, it's understandable and it's valid. And then if you're speaking to energy moving through your body, that is the process of light coming into you and destabilizing any block or stuck energies within you. And it can be scary too. So just breathe through it. But what has been very important for me, and I touched on it in the previous question, it's been really finding a guide that you can trust through this process.
mm,
So you mentioned going into the astral realm and astral travel. I've had hectic astral experiences where I was being pulled into a dimension, but I was so fearful because I don't know this. But then there's one guide who came in early, my grandmother, my mother's mother, and I knew that if I feel ukoko, it is safe. I can go. So
mm,
yeah, and please call on a particular guide. It doesn't even have to be ancestral. You can call on an angel, like Archangel Michael is a very powerful protective energy. If
mm,
like there's no one you can name, you're not used to it, you just ask this spirit that you trust to stand as a gatekeeper for you to help filter what comes through. Because yes, it is a reality that when we're open, we open ourselves to various kinds of energies. So
mm,
yes, it is important to be conscious every morning and ask. Ask whoever you trust to help filter who you connect with. And then furthermore, it's very important to practice good spiritual hygiene, as far as cleansing, clearing, and protecting yourself. Like, as we're talking here, I have my crystals. I'm even wearing an amethyst. So an amethyst is a very powerful protective crystal. It opens your third eye. It protects in that way. It helps you see past illusion. And then you have like this red jasper, which is grounding. You can use white sage to, maybe before you go and pray, clear your space, clear your aura, and pray and ask that, only loving energies remain, only energies that come to you in the highest of light and resonance. And yeah, you can, I guess, just research. There are many, many ways you can protect yourself, salt and so on and so forth. So yeah, just be gentle with yourself. Call on someone that you trust to help filter the process for you. And thirdly, practice good spiritual hygiene.
Yes, I love this so much. So good, so good. This question is similar to what we just talked about. It's about going on trance also. I did want to also, for me, one of the things that have really helped me with my journey is also the science of things. That's because I have a background in psychology, which has been really helpful for me to understand what's actually really happening on a scientific level. And there is so much information to explain everything within African spirituality or spirituality itself that can be found in sacred science, in quantum science, and this is available. So with the question, for example, of feeling like someone is sitting on top of you, I mean, we understand it as if you are doing this interdimensional travels or astral travels, and your spirit comes to the body before the body is ready, or you are disrupted in your interdimensional travels, when you come back into the body will not be adjusted, and it will actually have a panic attack, trying to just get you more aligned, spirit and body being in alignment. And because of the mind and the ego and how it interprets something like that is a little bit out of its order, it will create a scary image for you, and it will feel like someone is sitting on top of you. I know this is a phenomenon in African communities, but sometimes, I don't want to say altogether, but sometimes what's happening is actually just that the body, when you were in the rapid eye movement part of your sleep, where you were deeply in an astral travel, someone disrupted your sleep, and then you came too early. The spirit was disconnected from the body. So, of course, when this is happening, you might not have the conscious ability to be like, oh, my body's adjusting. It can be scary, but if we understand what's actually happening, I think that can also debunk the fear altogether. I just know that it does happen sometimes that your spirit comes too early to the body, and then we create the fearful image because we don't have the vocabulary to explain what's happening. So I love everything that you are saying around this. Okay, let me see another question that came. I think I love this question. It's around how to reconcile. How did you reconcile ancestral calling and your Christian background? Like, your father is a pastor. I mean, that must have been difficult.
Yes.
How did you do that? How did you also become finally open, to your community after, with you both this faith that to many people actually they often appear as if they are not complementary or they cannot exist together? Yes.
Sure. Yeah, this is a tough one. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. How do I reconcile it? So I touched on it earlier on in this conversation about how I kind of distanced myself from Christianity completely, and then went into more New Age. I was actually atheist at a point, and then went into more new agey esoteric practices. And then that's how I entered my ancestors and entered into African spirituality. However, Christianity still stuck with me as far as my perception of my ancestors. I was very fearful. When I could feel the energy in my room, I could feel presence in my space, I definitely just went to the programming of there are demons in here and, you know, they need to leave. And I must be honest, I was, as I mentioned, Archangel Michael, I was more comfortable with engaging with the angelic conversation. And now that I speak about it, it's because of my Christian background. It made me more comfortable in terms of, the depiction of, angels ultimately being a Christian concept. I was more comfortable with that. So I was extremely fearful of my ancestors. But as, again, everything is interlinked. As I started to do healing work, I didn't force it. I don't like I'm going to be on this journey. As I started doing healing work in myself, Spirit led the right people to me to help me understand. And I believe you being part of your conversation is the process. You know, I think maybe you may be 5% less apprehensive after this. Led me to the right people, but also then I started shifting the energy of or fear within me, and also just opening my consciousness and awareness as far as being able to make conscious decisions for myself. And it's a process. It's a process. And again, I would say to you, ask for help. Spirit gets it, guys. Your ancestors are not as upset with you. They understand you more than you understand yourself. They have such compassion for you. They have such empathy and understanding, and they know that you are battling with the two. So I say ask for them to help you reconcile the two. But now I'm finding that I'm going through a sort of Christian renaissance. Within African spirituality, there are healers that operate within the church and ancestors, prophets. And I'm also, I work with those sort of spirits, but there has been a lot of resistance within me. So I'm going through a renaissance and a reimagining of what Christianity actually is. And being able to, again, take the human element out of it and not project God, us onto God, is helping me understand the beauty of Christianity. And I feel that I'll be at a point where I'll be able to really mesh the two in a meaningful way. So it's a process, it's a journey, it's different for all of us. But I would just say ask, firstly, just give yourself understanding and compassion for the conflict within you, and then ask for help to embark on that journey towards it, and just submerge yourself in healing work that will have you more open towards African spirituality. And then I'll be frank, as far as my personal experience of coming out to my family and anyone that has known me, it's been very challenging. It has been very challenging. There was a tendency to hide. If I go home, I take off my beads or whatever. And the more I have just gone on this journey of healing, of purging, of releasing and becoming, the more and more I'm being empowered to be myself despite it. And the irony is that as you are shifting and growing, so are the people in your life. So my parents are very clear that this is not something that they believe in, but simultaneously they are very, very clear and adamant about my love, their love for me, and the acceptance for me. So as I have grown, anyone that knows me personally will be like, we cannot believe Sam that we knew is even having this conversation. It's crazy. It's the same thing for my parents. People will be like, what? Their daughter Samantha, like that amadlozi, and she's still allowed in the house and they still love her and still. So yeah, allow people around you the chance to grow by being yourself.
Mm. Oh, I love this so much because that has also been my experience. Well, not as it has been for you. I didn't have a lot of like deep battles with it. Only because my mother is also a, like she's also gifted, so this was also part of my lineage. So it wasn't something new. I wasn't the first one. But I love how people actually really adjust. Yeah, maybe in the beginning they will be like confused and they will have their own fears around what this means and how to relate with you. But people genuinely adjust and they will ask you questions and they will begin to understand. And I think what happens is they can see that despite what they believe to be true about this path, they can still see that you are still Sam, you're still Joy, like nothing has actually really changed. She's still the same person. So they will love you, and we don't need to have everyone understand us or have everyone understand this path. So I think there is a need for us to arrive to that. And I think this question is an old wound that has existed for healers, light workers throughout time, where we always have to hide who we are. But I think like right now in this time of human history, we are allowed more to be ourselves than in the past. And I always see this is always also related to dogma. Like this fear is related to how people perceive and separate ancestors and God, and like they don't see any relationship. And I think doing that internal work for yourself, your integrating God and ancestors for yourself will help you so much in the journey. I think that's what happened with me. For me, I speak about God, and I think it's so confusing for so many people because like why does she speak about God and ancestors on the same page? And I've seen people shifting because I mean, for me, that they are all the same. Like God, ancestors are messengers and guides for God, and they're doing God work. And if you can see that, if you also start to see that, the angels as well, they're all doing the same work as ancestors, ascended masters, Jesus Christ, and all the other, they are all it's all the same. All together, it goes back to unconditional love and God and source energy. So, yeah, okay. We are like,
there are many paths to the light.
Sorry?
There are many paths to the light.
Yeah.
And our ancestors are a very, very integral part and a consciousness that would serve us to lean on because they've been us. They've walked this earth. They know our struggles. So that is the unique selling point of our ancestors. And once you add them into the piece of your spirituality, your Christianity, it can only advance you further.
Yeah. I always tell people that, like, for me, I have had my heart being wide open with so much love. Mostly when I'm interacting with my ancestors, if like a guide who comes forward is like my great grandmother, my favorite great grandmother, I just cry. There's something so tangible about it, that love, because I've experienced it in the physical prior before they transitioned, and now later as a guy. Like for me, there's nothing that can surpass that feeling. Like my body remembers. So yeah, that's how we can come to it. Okay, so I think we answered pretty much all the questions, right? Oh, okay. So just I'm going to combine these two questions from Dinero and Katie so that you answer them at the same time. How to move through the fear that when you take this path, you're going to miss out on, the fun, and you're missing something else outside, right? And after that, how do we face these fears? Like, what are the practical things that people can actually begin doing in like right now to move themselves through the fears that they might have personally around being called.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, I touched on the notion that a lot of the time we fear answering this call and embarking on this journey and this path because we fear that we're going to lose ourselves.
Mm.
Like we are martyrs, you know, like, oh, I must take my cross and be Jesus and walk across the desert. I can't buy clubs, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. I'm not gonna, be dishonest. There will be discomfort. Um, there will be temporary isolation in many ways, but it has a significance and purpose, and it's about bringing you into alignment with who you are at your core. This path is not as limiting as we like to think. Um, our ancestors really want us to come into alignment with who we are. And I love using and like thinking about the example of, here's a popular example. There's Boiti Tulu, right? She's a television personality. It's been covered in media that she went on this path Twasa, and here she is, she's Goko Boiti, you know? And now here she is, she's a rapper. She's a rapper and she's doing very well. And that is what happens when you embark on this journey. You align with who you are, and it doesn't always look like how we think it will be. So if at your core, you want to sing your song, that is what this journey will have you express. I read an article about how there were these two gogos who said through their ancestors they were able to find feminism. Like, you know, these aren't conversations that we're actually having. Through ancestors, people are exploring their divine feminine. People are exploring their sexuality. People will think that Amagosi means that I must now cover up and whatever. And it's like, no, that process of working with them is to honor parts of yourself that you've actually been missing out on. So yeah, though there may be temporary discomforts, temporary isolations, it's actually to open you up to more than you can actually conceive, and literally be express yourself unfiltered and unafraid.
Love this so much.
So yeah, in terms of practical steps, um, hmm, yeah, I just say that it's something that I just keep reiterating. Start the healing work in ways that are easy or simple, that resonate. Meditation, prayer, ukphahla, whatever. Just start it small, and through that process, you will start to really conceive and understand why it would serve you to walk the path, and why giving up those things temporarily will be worth it. And a lot of the times you'll find that you don't even want to go back to a lot of those things. Like I made the analogy around drinking, for example. I mean, I'm not saying that all healers don't drink, but like I had to stop for months. There's so much, no makeup, no this, no that. And in that process, then I learned so much more about myself. And there's certain things that I will go back to, have gone back to, and some things no longer resonate with the new and improved, real and authentic me.
Oh, this is so powerful. This is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you so much.
Thank
Wow.
you.
This has been
Thank you.
yes, this has been so shifting. I know you're not able to see messages, but there's just been a lot of thank yous coming in also from the audience, and yeah. So this is so powerful. I love it. This makes so much sense. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A lot of people, I'm really grateful for the clearing that you've done, which just shifting them around here. So thank you so much for this transmission. I am shifted myself, and yeah, this was profound. Junior says this was very profound. Thank you. Thank
Wow.
you, Samantha.
Wow. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my heart, and being allowed this platform is part of my healing. Yeah, because I still have my challenges, I still have resistance, I still struggle. So each time I'm given the opportunity to be myself, the easier it becomes. Thank you. Thank you to you and yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope this was as shifting as I imagined. For me, I think this is really profound, powerful for everyone who joined us. And you can definitely connect with Samantha in her Facebook and Instagram page, Cosmic Lion Healing. You can also just go to the website and just click there to connect with her. She has amazing workshops coming up, retreats. Yeah, perhaps you can tell them about something that you have coming up right now, right?
Yes, so unfortunately, this is for Durban nights. I have a trauma workshop coming up on the 29th within Durban, and there we're going to really unpack trauma and understand its manifestations in our health, in our lives, in our relationships. We're really going to look at trauma as messengers trying to show us a new way, a way to freedom. And we're going to look at practical, tangible ways to start shifting the energy around trauma, and also ways to draw on help from our ancestors, from our guides and our angels, to just keep us protected and grounded in this journey of becoming. And then also, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I do one-on-one sessions in person in Durban, or virtually, like through Zoom, video chat, or Skype. Um, and yeah, I like to focus on uncovering your blockages. And I'm finding myself working a lot with people who are also in this ascension journey, in the journey of saying yes to their calls and yes to themselves. And then, yeah, I'll be having a virtual camp in the month of March. But yes, please just find me on either Instagram or Facebook, and I shall keep you posted. Yeah.
Wow, so powerful, so exciting. You are doing amazing work, Sam. I was telling you how I resonate so deeply with all of your work. I think it's so powerful and it's so important for us as gifted people, as people who are drawn to African spirituality, to do both our trauma shadow work as well as be vessels for light and for healing for other people as well. But I think what I love about the work you're doing and what I resonate with and what I've been doing also myself is addressing the shadows within ourselves as light workers, as people who are called. It is super important, so vital. So if you are in Devon, please connect with Sam. Or if you are everywhere else in the world, connect with her. She does this also virtually. So it's just available for you if you want to begin healing these fears, these distortions that we have around you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, Joy, for doing this. This is so important.
It
Thank
is
you.
so important. It's so important. And I did not know that we'll go to 1 hour, almost 40 minutes. But there was so much to talk and demystify around fear itself. And I know we could even go beyond, but
We could go on and on, yeah.
And so powerful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined us and who asked questions and who interacted with us. It's been a blast. It's so amazing to know that there are people who are called to this path and they want to know more and demystify themselves, decolonize themselves. So thank you so much. Thank you, Samantha. Everyone, I will see you tomorrow with the second training, the second conversation with the next speaker. Thank you, thank you. Love and light, Tokoza, Lesedi, Ashe. I don't remember the other ones, but love and light.
Kamaku. There are so many.
Yes. Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.